ready? Yeah? Fantastic. Good morning. My name's John Engen. Thank you for taking the time to join us this morning. We are lucky to be enjoying the hospitality of our friends here at First Interstate Bank. This is a great corner in Missoula as well, and the views here are spectacular, and what's going on in this building in terms of commerce is spectacular as well. I don't often read from remarks, but today I will, simply because I want to make sure that I say what I mean to say. And I don't even need my glasses this morning. So when I was a little boy in the 1960s, growing up in Missoula, Montana, the Mercantile was a place. I remember visiting the store with my dad, who's now gone, who would scour boxes of sink parts downstairs in the hardware department looking for that obscure piece that would make the weird sink in our little house on South 2nd Street work for another week or two. I remember sitting on Santa's lap upstairs in that building, and I have a picture of my dad who one year decided to sit on Santa's lap himself in an effort to make me laugh, and it worked. I remember the best piece of candy of my life, which came from a jar in the Mercantile that was surrounded by lots of other jars of candy, as I recall. It was an orange stick with white stripes. My mother bought it for me. She had one too, and I think it was her favorite piece of candy as well. And I remember years later buying shirts at the Bon Marché with my own money. Then as a grown-up married man, I bought furniture from the Bon. And even later, I bought a coat from Macy's. And I don't remember a lot about the building, frankly. But I remember the people and the place. I remember the time and the activity, the smells, the sounds, the tastes, the laughs, the smiles. And if I had my druthers, which I don't, some days I would turn back the clock and I'd eat that piece of candy all over again as a little boy with my mother, or hold my dad's hand while waiting in line to talk to Santa Claus about my desires, or be the young married man buying furnishings for his first home. And if I had my druthers, we'd figure out a way to return an old cobbled together center of commerce to its former rustic glory. But after 6 years of folks kicking tires and dashing hopes, the practical matter is that the perfect is the enemy of the good. And what is before us is a good project. The project you're going to learn about today is a good project. I appreciate the emotion that comes with the idea of an old building coming down. But the building is not the icon for me. That corner, though, is iconic. And the people who conducted their business there, the proprietors, the clerks, the customers, the bankers, the accountants, the corporations, the ne'er-do-wells, the folks who made that corner something, are gone. The building is empty, and its ghosts ought to be sad, because they're wont to haunt someone alive and a place that's vibrant. This project brings commerce, it brings life, it brings people to a place that deserves all of that and more. The community will benefit, the past will be honored, and history will be made every day in a new building, in an old place that will last for another 100 years. So I'd like to introduce to you Andy Holloran and the folks from HomeBase, who are making a proposal to build a hotel that will be filled with people, and a building that will be filled with energy, and a place that will matter again in Missoula. Andy? I am trapped by boards. I'll get out of your way.
Well, one of the first advice I was ever given almost a year ago was never, ever follow the mayor in a speech. So, thank you. I wanted to introduce Nicole Nathan. She is with J&S Design, an architecture firm out of Denver, who is the lead architecture firm for our proposed project. Lauren Marvel, works with us at HomeBase Montana, and Lauren Cummings, also with HomeBase Montana. So as the mayor so eloquently described, we respect and appreciate and honor the history of this building. For 144 years, it has been a symbol for what Missoula and the surrounding community stand for. But I also echo and agree with the mayor that it's just not a physical presence. We believe, more importantly, it stands for a center of commerce, a center of trade, a center of activity and life. And unfortunately, as Jed Dennison described last night and can talk about today, that building has sat empty for 6 years. And many people, many companies have looked at the repurposing of this building in its current state, as have we. And we have come to a similar conclusion that the physical structure has passed its life. Structurally, it's no longer occupiable. And so over the past number of months, we have looked at a variety of different options. We began with a full renovation of the existing building. That led us to a partial renovation where we wanted to save half of the building. That led us to an attempt to try and save the facade of the building. And each and every step of the way, we were met with financial and economic challenges. So today, we are looking at a deconstruction of the building. We have been working closely with the home resource folks. Jason is here to really work on a repurposing and salvaging of much material as we can, not only to be reused in the new Mercantile, but distributed throughout the community. So that's how we came about. That's our approach. As the mayor indicated, this is going to be anchored by a 154-room hotel. We had talked to a number of national brands. We felt that going with the Marriott Corporation was in the best interest of the project. Marriott Corporation is the largest and most successful hotel company in the world. The Residence Inn by Marriott happens to be their strongest brand. But a big criteria for us was the ability to customize this. And that was very important to us. So the Marriott Corporation has allowed us and supported us with a complete custom hotel. As Nicole so eloquently described, this is going to be Missoula's living room. And it's a place where people can visit, can live for a short period of time, and that complementing with our ground floor retail, the muse that Nicole will describe, we think is going to bring this vibrancy, this activity, this sense of commerce that is missing on such an important corner. And when we look around this neighborhood with the First Interstate Bank building here, the Wilma across the street, the Florence Hotel on the other corner, it really rounds out this neighborhood. And we are so honored and excited to be part of this. And we had an interesting evening last night, and one that is full of incredible passion, and we think that is beautiful. And we look forward to working with the community and the Historic Preservation Commission and the city to hopefully see a new project become reality. So, you want to say something?
Do you want me to walk through the? I could walk through the.
Yeah, I think
first
that'd be
floor
great.
if you'd like. So as we approach to these projects or a project, what we like to do is really think about the location and be very contextual. We actually look for a story that can be reflected in a project. And so we're very excited about the idea of the Mercantile and trying to capture that merchant spirit that is here and seeing the passion of this community for this particular location just fuels our story. So what you can see over here in that second board there is the first floor plan of what we're proposing. Everything in blue is retail, and so the idea is to really line the streets with retail with a lot of transparent glazing on the first floor so that you can really see in and see all of the activity that would be produced by a lot of retail in this location. So it's along Front Street and turns the corner on Higgins. In the orange, you see the hotel first floor functions. So the hotel lobby is actually off of Patty Street, and you can see that there on the right-hand side of the board. And then in the center, in that sort of greenish color, is what we call the Mercantile Muse. And the idea behind this is that this could really become sort of this internal street and reflect the spirit of the merchant. So this would be a very active space, a very public space. The meeting rooms from the hotel would open onto this space, as would all of the retail. So what we'd really like to do is invite the local community to be a big part of the success of this project. That's how a hotel really works well, when it integrates into its location and becomes important not just to the traveler, but also to the local community. We see this as a very open and inviting space. We see, as Andy mentioned, the lobby as really a living room for Missoula. So that muse itself will have some service coming across it, some front of house activities coming across it, and it will really be a model of what that whole spirit of the merchant was from the former uses on this site. And then we would have 150 keys in sort of a C shape above that, with an event space on the second floor for weddings, parties, additions to the hotel, and then these renderings represent our vision for what this project could look like. We have done a lot of custom hotels. We've won the custom Marriott's Best Custom Hotels for the last 2 years in a row. And if you walk into those hotels, you'll find that they don't feel like a prototype Marriott hotel. What they feel like is that they belong in the location that they're in. And that's what we intend here.
Ta-da.
Ta-da. There it is. Well, thank you very much. With that, we'll be happy to take questions.
You had mentioned last night that it's not a done deal. I'm just wondering, when do we close on a property? When will it become a done deal? Is there a timeline that you can share?
Sure. We would like to move as soon as possible. Market conditions, open and close, and we believe now is a great time to be doing this project in this community. We also understand that there's a process that we need to go through, which we began last night. And so we look forward to that process occurring. And our goal is to, go as soon as we can. So.
Is there an anticipated day when you'd like to see the hotel open, accept its first customer?
Our goals would be end of 2017, first part of 2018.
Mr. Mayor, a lot of hotels going up around Missoula, and I've had questions from folks saying, why are we building so many hotels so quickly, and will we have the people to fill them?
Yeah, and so I rely on the market to tell me that, and something tells me these guys aren't going to pop $30 million unless they're pretty sure they can fill a room. Our sense around Missoula is that the hospitality industry is growing. It is tough to find a room night during peak, and one of the things that we're working on through Conference Center and the complementary project that happens at Riverfront Triangle is creating what the industry types call compression. That is, we create new opportunities for those rooms to get used and for people to visit Missoula and participate in the community.
I'd like to just dovetail that. So we've done a tremendous amount of market research. And really, when we look at the Missoula community, it's almost two submarkets. We have the Reserve Street expansion, which is a lot of new growth, but we also have downtown. And similar to our experience in Bozeman with the Element by Weston Hotel, we see the traveler, the business person, the family that generally much prefer to be in a urban, walkable location. And we couldn't think of a better location than Front Street and Higgins. That combined with the extended stay concept, I think is a great complement to the existing DoubleTree, to the existing Holiday Inn, and it's a product type that does not exist downtown. And we think, bringing 300, 400, 500 guests a night into that location, filtering throughout downtown, eating and shopping and drinking and visiting the Wilma and other locations is going to be really exciting.
Any city funds going into this project?
Today, there are no city funds going into the project. However, it's in a redevelopment district, so there's always that opportunity.
You won't know this. I bought the old Poverello building in town. It's a historic building. And we've completely renovated the inside. The outside is the same, but inside is completely brand new. And I'm really wondering why you didn't incorporate the facade of the old building. I think that would satisfy a lot of people about keeping the history of the place. Is it just about the money? You just don't want to spend the money to keep those walls?
Well, certainly for us, economics plays a role. And we are a real estate developer, and economics and costs matter. So when we and our engineers looked at this building, structurally, it is not up to code. Code has changed significantly over the last number of years. The facade itself is crumbling. That brick was sandblasted in 1976, as you probably know. And if you go touch the brick, you can see how fragile it is. So, as I mentioned earlier, our original goal was to renovate the existing building. Given the asbestos on the roof, given the structural integrity of the existing building and the deterioration of the facade, all of our steps to do what you did have proven uneconomic for us. I would, offer Jed to give his view. Jed Dennison has marketed this property with Octagon over the past, 5-6 years, and it's not coincidence that people come to the same conclusion. So,
Andy, I'm curious, how long, I mean, this is fairly well realized. How long have you been working? You talk about all the analysis and kind of getting to where we are today. Can you kind of give us an idea of the timeline of what's happened there?
you bet. So we got introduced to the property late last summer. And it was actually introduced to us from Clark Street Partners, who had it previously under contract. And we got very excited about it. We had been analyzing the Missoula market for our company to expand. And as I mentioned, throughout the fall of last year, we had looked at a variety of renovation plans. And as I mentioned, unfortunately, that does not work for us. So the evolution of these plans have really come together very quickly. I love the fact I'm old enough that when we started design projects, it was done by hand, and it took forever to create. So these images through JNS, they've come together very quickly, just in the last short while. So we were just now in a position to present what our ideas are.
And as far as design, and I know those are always kind of fluid as you go along, but maybe one of you can speak to this. Any thought given to almost a recreation more of the Merc look, a little more specific to what might be a replacement as opposed to this? I mean, that's what I'm hearing already in some of the chatter.
Sure. Yeah. We really think that recreating historic buildings is somewhat of a disservice to the original history, and we think that to be more authentic and realistic to the time, we prefer to reflect the current time. We want to put something there that is of this time, that has enduring and lasting materials, but is also about 2016 and not try to recreate or in sort of a Disney-esque manner to recreate something that was there before.
I think the other, to dovetail Nicole, when we look to attract amazing, vibrant retail uses, retailers like natural light. They like high ceilings. They like the ability to open up into pedestrian sidewalks where they really create this vibrancy and this pedestrian activity. And if we do keep the facade as is, it really limits all of those fundamentals in retail and restaurant leasing.
I have two quick questions. Do you have retailers and a restaurant lined up to occupy the space?
We have really just, you're seeing this, very quickly. So we are confident that we will attract a diverse, beautiful list of restaurants and retailers, but we have not started that process yet.
This question is for the mayor. The meeting last night, the Preservation Commission voiced an opinion. We don't know how the commission is going to vote. If they vote against the project, what's the process moving forward? Does the commission have the authority to kill this project?
It does not. The process is such that commission weighs in an advisory manner. City council has opportunity then to weigh in as well with regard to the demolition permit. But I think the process is important, and I think having, one of the things I heard last night was this is a done deal. Well, as Andy says, this has come together fairly quickly in terms of design, and really the notion that deconstruction is the way that we're opting to proceed here is a relatively recent decision. Last night was a courtesy visit to the commission. Clearly lots of folks are passionate about it. I think folks need to get used to the idea a little bit. When I first heard it, I thought, really? But as I have been able to process the notion, I get to a place where this is pretty reasonable. And again, I think a great project for downtown.
One more question. You have the option of demolishing it or deconstructing it. You chose to deconstruct it. How much does that, what's the cost of deconstruction after the project versus demolition? Do you have any idea?
It's fairly significant. The time is also equally important. We expect the demolition or the deconstruction process to last at least 90 days. And working with Jason and his team and others, it is a methodical process in order to save some of the items that Jason described last night, the dimensional lumber, the tin ceiling, the beams, the columns. There's a lot of beautiful material in there that we look to salvage.
Just a quick note, Dennis, we also have, Tom Severson, president of First Interstate, and a neighbor, as it turns out, of this project is here, as is David Bell, president of Alps, who's a neighbor across the street in the Florence building, and others if you're interested in talking with those folks. And Tom has opened up the 5th floor of this building if you want shots of the Mercantile Building from up above. So, Dennis.
I was just going to ask the city's perspective on this, because I know over these last 5-6 years, every time we've kind of asked, what's the city's take on the Merc? It's always been, well, it's private property, we're not really involved. So could you kind of iterate again the city's role and perspective on this particular thing as opposed to maybe all the other ideas that have come along?
Sure.
Which always seem to be sort of hands-off.
Yeah, so I will tell you that that in 2010, as a function of the Smurfit Stone Mill closing and Macy's announcing that it was leaving this building across the street, the Missoula Economic Partnership was born. I believed at the time that we needed to have a strategy around dealing with economic development in the city. The most often asked question of the Missoula Economic Partnership staff over the course of the last 6 years is, what are you doing about airfares and what's going on with the Merc, right? It is a private building with lots of public sentiment attached to it. The fact of the matter is that we want to work cooperatively with anyone who's interested in doing downtown development. Downtown is very close to my heart. Downtown real estate is the most expensive real estate in the city, and its value is high, and that translates into property taxes, right? So investment in downtown is a real investment in the community and a real investment in municipal infrastructure and the long-term health of the city. And so I am very interested in something other than nothing happening at that location. And part of this is, you know, Jed and I have had conversations over the years, and I've had people whisper in my ear about all sorts of projects. Whole Foods would have been a fabulous project downtown. Didn't happen. Those folks repurposed buildings around the country all day long. It's what they do, and they couldn't make it work in this location. They took 2 stabs at it and couldn't make it work in this location. I have a developer who's very interested in downtown development, has really done some pretty remarkable work in downtown Boise, took a run at this, could not figure out a way to make it work. Spent some time with the folks at the library for a public use. How do we make this work in that situation? Took a run at it, couldn't figure out a way to make it work. So fundamentally, we have a building that was largely cobbled together over time for all sorts of good reasons. And the cobbling just doesn't work for a modern purpose, and it certainly doesn't work for a 5-story hotel product with retail on the bottom without being expensive to the point that a reasonable person would not engage in the project. And that's fundamentally what this is about, is reasonableness and how we get there. And it's reasonableness and greed are not the same thing. And as a practical matter, folks got to make money at the end of the day. My hunch is that nobody gets particularly rich here. I could be wrong about that. But I think folks get to make a decent living. They get to create something that lasts in a place that we care about. And I think that matters.
And for Andy, one of the...
It's a short soundbite for you, Dennis.
No, that works for me. Lots of variety. I appreciate it, Barry. Thank you. Andy, one of the things we saw immediately as soon as this was starting to develop, and some of the reaction from folks online was really talking about why that particular corner. I mean, did as part of this analysis, when you're looking, did you look at other locations downtown, and maybe you could speak to how we settled on that, or was this always at the top of the list and we didn't necessarily look at others because this fit the criteria?
Sure. We have looked at a number of sites downtown, but clearly for us, this location is main and main. And as I've mentioned, we have approached this project first through a renovation and through a series of iterations to where we are today. We believe this corner is very important to this particular neighborhood and to downtown. We also believe it has an ability to stretch the retail component more in an east-west direction, and that's why it was important for us to put the entrance to the hotel on Patty. It really ties in to the parking garage, the market, the future student housing project, and really creates more of an east-west pedestrian activity neighborhood. And so I hope that answers your question.
It does, thank you.
And so we worked really diligently on the downtown master plan. A lot of folks in this room were engaged in that process, and what you're seeing is that plan actually come to fruition through implementation and through effort. So I was in Bozeman in October, as I recall, met with HomeBase's team. We called up Google Maps and we did a tour of downtown, and I suggested a variety of sites that could create opportunity for housing, hotel, whatever development HomeBase was interested in doing. We promote urban renewal districts. We talk about our ability to assist with infrastructure and move projects forward. What you're seeing, if you look at the downtown master plan map, the epicenter is Macy's. When we were crafting that downtown master plan, there is no way in hell we were going to have a master plan that didn't call out Macy's as important, right? Because it was the anchor department store, and the biggest fear that folks who were doing business downtown at that time had was that Macy's was going to go. Well, guess what? It went. And downtown ain't over, but the building is, right? The activity is, and so we need to figure out some way to get activity back in that really hot spot. I like this idea that it's Main and Main. That's actually kind of a cool notion. So we've been deliberate and intentional in trying to figure out ways to show investors, just like these folks, what downtown can be, what the opportunities are. And in doing so, we actually are getting what we asked for. We're getting folks making proposals to do great things in our downtown. And those of us, there are many in this room who've been around for a long time, and I talked about the Mercantile and the Bon Marché, and then the Bon, and then Macy's. When I was a kid, there was a J.C. Penney. There was it Woolworths, as I recall. There was Lucy's Furniture Store, Dragstead's Clothing Store. Downtown was a place. And then for a long time, and only thanks to the efforts of folks who were convinced that downtown needed to remain a place, organization that grew into the MDA and now the Downtown Partnership, is the place vital. And we're seeing things come full circle. People want to be back downtowns. They want to be in urban settings. They want to be where the action is, right? If you go to a city that's larger than Missoula, say Portland or Seattle, you'll see lots of downtown hotels, and the reason is that's where people want to be. I need more coffee, apparently.
Were you discouraged at all by the reaction you got last night, Andy? I mean,
I don't think discouraged. I think as we reflected after the hearing and even this morning, I think we came away with appreciation. And certainly to be presented with a full deconstruction plan when their role is historic preservation, that's at odds. And I thought the commissioners were very respectful. I thought they asked constructive questions. And so I wouldn't say discouraged, but obviously there is a tremendous amount of passion in this community. There is a tremendous amount of passion for the Mercantile, but we tend and have looked towards what really the Mercantile stood for. Last night it was great to meet Minnie Smith, who wrote the Missoula Mercantile. And when you read that book, it's not about the building. It's all about the people. And that's what we want to bring back, is the soul of that location, the sense of commerce, trade, and so.
Anybody else? All right, well, thank you very much. Folks are remaining available. Again, that option for the 5th floor is yours, and thank you very much for your time and energy today.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good?
Yeah.
Are you like a capper?
I'm
Are you key grip?